This TED Talk is my story. It's a lot about me and who I am, and the reason for that is because I found that that's so applicable to this class, and it's so applicable to my overall senior year. And my life before Pepperdine had a lot of adventure and a lot of things that shaped me into who I am. And then since Pepperdine, I've also grown a lot and learned a lot. And so much of my senior year, even before I knew what service leadership, what this class really entailed, so much of what I wanted my senior year to be was reflective about me, reflective about who I've been through, focusing on my presence and enjoying my senior year, and focusing on what I wanted that to mean and where I wanted that to go. And I had no idea that this class would align with what I was trying to do in myself. And I had no idea that I've never seen school come together so well with what's happening on the inside. And that's why I want this TED Talk to be a lot of my story, because it applies to who I am. And I resonate with so much that we've talked about and so much that's happened in this class. And so much of it has to do with me and where I've been and what I want to be and the kind of leader that I want to be for myself, for my family, and for my career someday. Service leadership, to me, it is a leadership style, definitely, but it's so much more than that. Service leadership is a lifestyle, because a servant leader's mindset is not based on their position, it's not based on their authority, it's not based on their career title or even where they want to be. To be a servant leader means that you're choosing to have a lifestyle and a mindset of serving others wherever you're at today, whether that's a student, whether that is working in the mailroom at some internship, whether that is a job where you're just another name on the payroll, or you're just another name on the list of a roster somewhere. Even if you don't have that position of authority or that title or whatever it is, service leadership is choosing to be a leader from the inside out with wherever you are today. My group is 2020 Consulting, and our client is Alicia. And she has started this foundation called Beyond the Bruises. And her story was so impactful. And meeting with her for the very first time was really a wake-up call of what this class is going to be for me, because it hit home for me. So much of what she talked about I resonated with, and so much of her story I was so pulled into. And I realized that how much this class is going to encompass who I am and so much about me. It's not a class, it's not an assignment, it's not this removed external thing. It's something that is very much from the inside out. And we sat down with her, and we met with her, and she was so real with us. She was so genuine, she was so authentic, and she told us her story of how she's been in a lot of domestic abuse. She's faced a lot of that. She's faced more pain than any person should feel, and so unjustly. And she's been through such hard circumstances, and she talks about how it was so hard to do that, even with her kids, and to have children in the picture going through something like that, and the strength that it took for her to leave that, and how many times she had to leave her situation, and how many times the man who was abusing her followed her, and how it was this constant cycle of this very, very dark time in her life where she felt like she couldn't get away, and she didn't know how to start over, and she didn't know even really how to do life, and how do I go from here, and how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do this well with these two little kids, and how am I going to get away. And she had no time to even think about herself and all of that and what she needed, because she had to focus on keeping herself alive and keeping her kids alive. And she was so real, and her story was so real, and she was so raw and so vulnerable with us. And it resonated with me in so many ways, because she was passionate. She was passionate, she was vulnerable, she was authentic. And everything about that shined as a leader. You could see that she's a leader just because of those things. And she has a cause that people are going to rally behind because she's real. And I think so much of that is even what Cashman is trying to display in so many of these chapters, is being vulnerable and being real is very hard, and it's not a natural feeling. But it does so much as a leader. It helps people relate to you. It helps people rally behind you. It helps people understand who you are so they can fight for what you believe in, so that they can fight for you, so that they can be on your team and support you, so that they can feel like they're a unified team all together and they have a safe place to be that vulnerable. She's creating that within her organization, and it's so evident and so clear, even with her just telling that story and the way that it made us feel. And I resonated with that because, one, I see how effective that leadership was in her, like I just said, and two, because in a way I lived a little bit of her story, not as her, but as her kids. Because when I was growing up, my mom was the strongest woman that I know, and she still is, and she has been so much of what's shaped me into who I am, and she had a very dark period in her life and a very dark time, and I witnessed it all. And I don't have the same story as Alicia. My mom wasn't in a domestically abusive relationship, but my parents were not in a healthy relationship. And I saw a lot of things and witnessed a lot of things and went through a lot of things that no kid should have to. And I saw my mom fight so hard for what she believes in and have this period where no one was around her and no one was really there to help her, and she didn't know where to go, and she didn't know how to start over, and she didn't know how to do it with a little girl, and she went through something that was so hard, and she did it so well. It's all by the grace of God, but it's also by the strength and the resilience and the openness to change and the fighting attitude and the determination and the drive and the passion and all of these things that my mom had that I saw in Alicia when we sat down and met with her that day. And I resonated so much with her story, and I was able to tell her that afterwards of, I'm so glad that I'm on your team. I'm so glad that I'm here to support you because I hear your story and I see what you're doing, and I want you to know the impact that you can have on the people around you. And her even sitting there crying, telling us her story was just so real. And I just wanted her to know that in a way I understood, and I wanted her to know the huge blessing that she is to her kids and that she's shaping them to be stronger than they would be otherwise, just like I saw my mom do for me. And even one thing that really stood out to me so much is the way that Cashman talks about shadow beliefs and a lot of our strengths, and how so much a strength and a shadow belief can turn into a weakness. And that is such a real thing. And I've seen that even a lot in my own story of when I was growing up and things were out of control and I didn't have a home base, or I didn't really have stability of any type. My solution was to throw myself into school. And I became a straight A student, perfect, wanted to be the teacher's favorite, wanted my work to always be the example, wanted to get 100% on everything, because if I was doing really well here, this stuff at home wouldn't matter as much. And if I could be perfect over here, it was okay that I didn't have that affirmation over here. And my drive to be perfect, my perfectionism that was forming, was becoming an identity, and that was becoming a weakness. And I realized that later in school. I realized it before this class, but I love how Cashman laid it out of strength, shadow belief can turn into a weakness. Because I didn't have something that broke it down so simply for me, even though I knew that was something that I'd figured out on my own. This class has helped me narrow down everything that I want and that's important to me into a purpose statement, which is to faithfully and humbly love the Lord and others in order to live a life that is purposeful and driven and full of laughter and adventure.